So hey, it's Keith, what's up? And I am spending a few days with my teacher and my mentor of many, many years, 10 years now. And we're going to record a bunch of videos. This is Truth Calkins. And he's going to talk an awful lot about Jing, Qi, and Shen, so we're just going to do a review of what that is. Yep. Go ahead, Truth.
Jing is a Chinese word. If you translate it into English, it means primal essence. So that is the core constitutional life force, the essence of the body. Qi is the term most people are more familiar with because it's more popular, energy. Qi tonic herbs like ginseng, more popular, famous around the world, so they've made it to the West. Shen is a Chinese word. If we translate it, it means spirit. These are philosophical terms that the Chinese used for a system of defining health, all energetics, mind, body, spirit of health, going back for thousands of years. I mean, the Earth is very old, so what, 4,000, 6,000 years, 9,000 years old, some people say for Chinese medicine it's not that old. But in our modern times, you know, when we search for health information on Google, you know, 4 to 9,000 years is pretty old. So there's a lot of wisdom there. It was well documented. Things were well written down. The meridian system, acupuncture, the organ system, the 5 elements, yin and yang. Not yang, but yang. That's how you pronounce it. Jing, Qi, Shen. These are philosophies. Okay. They're simple. They're very beautiful. You know, the quintessential documented, written piece of manuscript of religious or spiritual philosophy that orients from the same vein is of Taoism or Chinese history of this time frame is the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Stephen Mitchell translation is my favorite. You can get a little pocket copy anywhere. And if you just slow down, you're on a fast, you spend time in nature, you get alone, you spend time and you just read some of these passages. You know, the translator says to read the words like brushstrokes on a painting.
And you can jump into those, right? Like tarot cards, kind of like you don't need to read it end to end. You can just jump in.
Yeah. You can open up the Tao Te Ching and just, yeah, like an oracle card. What am I supposed to read today? Flip passage number 49.
Yay.
The sage is not attached to anything, but therefore he does what is right without speaking, simply by being in the Tao. That's just one of my favorite quotes I like. You can flip through and read any one of them. Now, if you're in body, mind, ego consciousness, if you're in the carnal mind, if you're in a fast brainwave state, if you're in fight or flight stress mode, if your senses are overloaded from addiction to everything we do in the modern world, if the brain is full of images because you're watching movies and TVs and binge watching sitcoms or whatever, you know, and memes on Facebook and social media, you know, it puts so much junk, so much clutter in the brain that you can't really quite calm down and get clear and feel these passages. They seem philosophical. The more you get influenced by brainwashed information from society, conditioning, which is what really the consciousness of modern entertainment, of television shows, of sitcoms, of movies, of even a lot of YouTube memes and videos that people do. The attitude, the personality, the way people present themselves, the clothing they're wearing, their personality, self, is very much what I call in the Matrix. They're very much what's considered normal. And that's not to judge them. It's not to say they're not a good soul. It's not to say they're not a beautiful soul. It's not to say that person's not an eternal being and they never die, this the spirit. Okay, but the practices of the customs that occupy the conscious mind while they're awake, in their lifestyle, grown up in the society they've grown up in, is very concerned with consumerism, materialism, image-based consciousness. And when you get older, or you've gone through a few decades of eating processed food, making money in a corporate job, having a family, or doing all the things you think you're supposed to do that you've seen on television, and then you suffer the statistical damage of everyone who lives in the Matrix does, and that's like, the diseases that come after and the aging. It's like, wow, that was over quick. Now I'm getting old, now I'm dying of a disease, and it's only my body, and I know that, I'm not afraid to die, but I'm a little sad because I hadn't been here that long. I'm only 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old maybe, which isn't very old. And I've only done third dimensional consciousness stuff. So human beings, adults, who spend their whole life in what the Taoists call thinghood, materialism, third dimension, the body. They're concerned with their bank account and their car and their resale money and paying their bills, and and we have to survive if we're living in society. So I'm not saying these things are bad, but when it becomes the status quo, your modus operandi, or your whole reason for being, that you focused on those things since childhood, your whole life so much, and thought that that's what would make you happy, thought that was the meaning of life, that was the purpose. So you make more money, you work harder, you stress, you worry about this job, that, and paying these bills, and you're a massive consumer. To relieve the stress of all of that stuff, you're addicted to television or the internet or porno, or and processed food and junk food, and or shopping, and spending money for no reason on more material stuff, because
And
it's a way to burn off steam.
Yep.
You keep thinking all of these things are going to entertain me, all these things are going to fulfill me. But the truth is that adult is just a grown-up child with a drug addict brain. They're
nice.
still a beautiful soul. They're still an eternal soul. They have much yet to make known that they do not know about life, to experience. The future is completely unknown and unwritten, and could be anything. But they're really trapped by the consciousness, the addictions, the attitudes, the belief systems that are deeply embedded. And that's a program, like a piece of software that's written into society. And the more you go to a magazine stand and look at magazines, and you look at the expressions of the people on these magazines and the clothes they're wearing, the attitude that they have, the fashion, this is all third dimensional social consciousness.
Let's bring that
and
to
all of that just takes you away from what's real inside, deep down, which is what you're going to go back to when you have to die one day anyway.
And your body. So let's bring that to why you use the term Jing Master, because what you're saying is people value things and all this stuff more than their body, and they're not actually taking into account that they're not going to get to enjoy anything because they're not going to have a body anymore. So can you bring that into, because you use that term Jing Master all the time.
Every being is sovereign. So no one can tell another sovereign being what to do.
Sure.
We all have free will. And so, we use the term sometimes old soul, young soul. Perhaps technically we're all the same age. We come from the same soul pot of the void from so many millions of years ago or whatever. But some souls have focused on a level of consciousness of what they value, what they experience in their lifetime. It's on a different level than other people. Some people get on a spiritual path sooner. Some people get deeper into wanting to be alone in nature and contemplate deeper aspects of life. Some people explore deeper aspects of humanity through art, and Van Gogh of one lifetime, or their Picasso one lifetime, and they're going through all the cathartic expression of the third chakra, or the second chakra of pain, suffering, victimization of the human spirit. But suffering is still a life experience. It's still divine. It still has its own beauty in its own way, because it's your life. And some people want to be a Barbie doll a whole lifetime, and there's nothing wrong with that if they think that that's beautiful and that makes them happy and raises their vibration. So they get their boob jobs, or their hair dyes, and their makeup, and their material things, and they get pretty in their pink Corvette and their whatever, and they might do that several lifetimes. Some people live common genetics, just wanting to grow up and find a mate, fall in love, and breed, have children, have a family, and provide a living for them. And that's a beautiful thing. You're giving life and you're supporting them. But it caps off at a certain level of consciousness, because you're following just the basic genetic program. We're half animals and we're half gods. We have, the genome, the DNA that we understand. We all know what happens when the hormones come into fruition, and we're interested in sex as we're growing into teenagers, and that's the animal part of the being that wants to go off and breed. If you have no higher knowledge of that great big brain of yours to understand what it's really for, or what your potentials are, and what you could be in this lifetime, that maybe you'd say, okay, there's a time and a place for sex, or just breeding, or having children, And maybe I should wait and not just create average statistical children at a young age before my prefrontal frontal lobes are even done growing and I have even evolved my chromosomes to pass on to my children so they can be better than me. I'm just having younger children that are going to grow up and be statistics, and they're going to be addicted to the matrix, and they're going to just follow the program and be asleep. They're still beautiful souls. You love them just as much. You do everything to care for them. Hopefully they're not autistic, which their experts are saying everyone in 6 years from now is going to be in the spectrum that's born if they don't stop the EMFs and the GMO food and detox their bodies. And because then, you know, you love this being, but it's deformed. And you're going to spend many parents will love their children more than themselves. They'll spend everything and all of their jing to try and heal that child. And they'll have to go to Diedrich Klinghardt, and they'll have to detox, they'll have to do this and that, get rid of the moldy, and it can be a massive adventure. So knowledge is what's so important. Because if you had the knowledge beforehand, maybe you'd say, I'm going to detox for 2 years but have this child. I'm going to wait till after age 35, so my prefrontal frontal lobes have been fully grown for 5 years. In the ancient mystery schools of the Far East thousands of years ago, some of them never had children. They wanted to save their jing, to live longer, to meditate longer, to raise their consciousness more, in the greater chance that they can ascend this lifetime. Or perhaps they get halfway and then they croak, and then they go back into the non-physical, but they're at a high level because of all the spiritual work they did that lifetime before. So when they're born the next lifetime, they're like an avatar. They're born right in with the consciousness picked up from the last lifetime. They pick up their spiritual path, go back to the meditation, and they ascend the second lifetime or the third. And it's, again, there's no right or wrong whether you want to be a materialistic Barbie doll or you want to be an ascended master. It's your free will. You're the sovereign being. God gave you the power source, and you are a part of that. But we don't know what all our choices are if we don't have knowledge, if we don't have information. Now, if you're born into the matrix, like in my generation, I remember my friends. Now, I was born a little bit in the fringe of the matrix because my parents were hippies, and we had a little farm and lived on goat's milk in a fruit orchard in a garden. We didn't go to movies or restaurants, and I had to wear handmade sewn clothes and had a weird name. And there's upsides and downsides because you can feel insecure in the matrix when you're trying to compare yourself to regular people. According to status quo, you're supposed to have a nice haircut and a normal name and a bank account and clean clothes and get a good job and be confident and have friends over for your birthday party and then grow up and be a really successful, well-functioning adult, happy human being in society that has 2.5 kids and a garage and a car and car insurance and a nice smile with white teeth and whatever. Nothing wrong with those things either, but is that what it's about? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Is that the meaning of my life? Maybe there's a lot more. And ancient mystery school knowledge is somewhat covered up. Ever since tyrants came into being, where one man gained a lot of power or wealth and decided to instill that power in a region, a province, and say, oh, you people have to now pay taxes to me, or you're my peasants and I am the king, or whatever. And then we had monarchs, or we had tyrants. And we're used to that. We have governments today. We have a system, and there's good sides and there's maybe not so good sides about it. But we're partway through evolution. We're still working on it as a species. And but ever since tyrants came into being, the master teachers, the spiritual teachers, the hierophants, the alchemists, the wizards, the ancient mystery schools, they were not liked by tyrants because they're teaching common people power through knowledge, through consciousness of who they are, what they're capable of. And if they get too powerful, they're not going to be such easy subjects or servants where they just bow down and pay taxes and do whatever they say and see you as the tyrant and I'm just a peasant and this is my place, So all the ancient mystery school teaching kind of went off into the Far East into hiding and or into the Tibetan mountains or into places that were rare and hard to find because of the tyrants would get rid of them if they didn't. And so when things become obscure or esoteric, then they become conspiracy theory. Like, what does that mean? It means it's true that just not that many people know about it, usually. So when the tyrants came along, ancient mystery school teachers went into hiding, And then this information became harder to get for people to find freedom. And then they grow up into programs. Like the movie Lord of the Rings. You have the common folk, the Hobbit, these little people. They're provincial. They live in one area. They grow their little food. They have their simple pleasures. They're good-parted people. They all have good souls. And they're all eternal souls. They're all gods, meaning their souls never die. They reincarnate over and over and over again. They get new bodies. The body is a highly refined genetic apparatus to house an eternal soul, a god. And it is the most highly designed physical body there is. But the state of the bodies that we're in at present are only partially activated. The 98% of non-coded so-called junk DNA. That's multidimensional DNA. Comes from Anunnaki, advanced aliens, higher beings. And when people start unplugging their neurons from all of the stimuli of the matrix lifestyle, and the brain gets clear and empty, perhaps they use some of the philosophy from the Chinese system and they build their Jing Qi Shen, that can help too. But they don't have to do that, and we have to know about it. They unplug from the matrix and they start following their intuition, their higher self, and they learn how to start doing their own transcendental meditation. They start spending a lot of isolated time in nature, which has a very pure consciousness. And some of that non-coded DNA starts to unwind, it starts to activate, it starts to turn on. And then suddenly there's chi coming out of their palms. And they're playing with it one day, and after they sprain their ankle, and they realize they can heal themselves with their hands in a very short amount of time. Like Master Lu, who can dissolve tumors in a woman's breast from 6 inches away, and in about 6 weeks, 30 minutes, twice a week. But he was trained for 30 years in a cave with Taoists, how to meditate and find the chi in the meridian and project it through the pericardium point out of his palm, and then use it to heal people. But that can happen by accident when you turn on some of that non-coded DNA, by unplugging from the matrix and then spending time isolated in nature or in any way that allows you the clarity to step out of the conscious mind. The carnal conscious mind can only process 2,000 bits of information per second, and it's involved in survival. It's there to make sure you don't walk in front of a bus, you look both ways, and your heart jumps if a car is going to come in. It's for survival, to protect the apparatus. The apparatus is a beautiful vehicle for the spirit God that's inside of it, and it has many backup measures to take care of itself, to balance its pH, to fight infections, to have an immune system, to adapt to stress. So when a woman loses a lot of jing because she has a baby, some of the baby stem cells go back into her body and regenerate her as a gift back from nature to help her continue to live, to raise that offspring, and to continue to fulfill her path. There's so many gifts the body can do. But the body can eventually only take so much damage. That's why all the health arts of learning detoxification, purification, rejuvenation, and healing, they clean up and purify the physical apparatus, the temple, and then the spirit inside becomes a little more alive and clear. Then you unplug from the matrix, you do some of the spiritual work. It can be intuitive, you can make it up yourself, you don't have to have a teacher. Or you could find a teacher who can turn you on to a few things that you resonate and you feel it if it's extemporaneous. If you're constantly following spiritual teaching from spiritual teaching from spiritual teaching, and it's all colloquial academic teachings. It's in your head and you're just learning the words and the lingo and the philosophy and think you're paying and joining a course and you're going to do it. You're kind of a wannabe. You're a little bit lost. And we were talking about diets earlier, Keith, and people do this a lot too. And it's not their fault, it's just that they were stunted in their own ability to learn for themselves because they're raised in the matrix, in a program where we have so much, you're a child in Disneyland constantly. When you walk out the door and you're in the matrix, it's like a big theme park. It's like every day you're at Disneyland and everything is designed to look pretty, the cotton candy tastes good, and there's all these noises and actions, ooh, entertainment, what's that, what's this, what's that, and it's all a fun fair. The tyrants started that, going all the way back to the Middle Ages. What were the first entertainers? They weren't movies, they weren't the Avengers, they weren't Disneyland. They were called jesters. They were jugglers, they were entertainers. They would distract you. They would put on a show. They would entertain. So common folk will go, oh wow, what's that? I'll sit down and watch that, and I'll laugh, and I'll and relate. It takes their consciousness off themselves and puts it on something that is of no mind, something that is of no value. It's just pointless. It's just a sideshow. It's a distraction. It's the window dressing of life. And that keeps them preoccupied so they don't ascend, so they don't evolve, so they don't grow and learn higher knowledge and become sovereign beings and empowered. Because if they become sovereign, they're not going to pay their taxes. They're going to create their own reality. They're going to grow their own food. They're going to manifest what they want. If they keep going, they'll end up like Saint Germain one day, living for 300 years, traveling by thought to their laboratories in every part of the world they want, transmuting base metals like lead into gold, giving it to poor people, you know, and being able to witness long, beautiful periods of history on this wonderful planet. Imagine living 300 years, you know. You don't just get to see El Nino and Y2K and go through the 80s, or, you know.
And that's why you want to be a Jing master. So
well,
we're getting to 20 minutes, so let's
it's one reason to I do love life. I think this planet is beautiful and very interesting, even though there's a lot of things I go out of my way to do differently, because I love the life so much. I want to stick around longer and enjoy it. So I prefer not to age and adopt the attitude that the students, the young students that would join the ancient mystery schools of the Far East thousands of years ago, they were told by their teachers. They would practice the longevity arts. They were told, you can live for 200 years in one incarnation. First, it starts with a thought, to know that you can believe that, and you activate it in your cells. Instead of sending a lower spark to every cell every year of your life because you age, now I'm 40. So, you know, that stigma lowers your vibration. And then they learn practices like fasting, detoxification, healing, and tonic herbs. The Taoist monks learned certain energetics of certain herbs that could nourish the Jing, the battery, the core life force. That's your mojo, your core constitutional life force, your hormones, your bone marrow, your stem cells. It's your primal mode of drive for life. It's strong when you're young. That's why people, when they're young, they want to leave the nest. They want to listen to their parents. They're teenagers. They're boisterous. They walk into rooms fast. They do everything. And they're impulsive, spontaneous, but they're passionate. And they've got a lot of Jing. And if they make a lot of mistakes, if they screw up, and they can bounce right back, get up, and recover, because they're resilient, because they're adaptable, because they're strong. And their telomeres are long. Their bone marrow is moist. Their testosterone is high. Their sperm count is high. Their eggs are fertile. And that's all part of the Jing. But you're just a kid, you're so new, and you got all this energy in your body, and you don't know what to do with it. All you know is that it feels good. It feels good to be young. So I'm going to go get fucked up. I'm going to party. I'm going to play. I'm going to chase chicks. I'm going to whatever. Do stupid sports. I'm going to skydive and risk my life. Or, you know, drink and get wasted and kill a bunch of brain cells. And it's because I'm so strong. I have so much glutathione. I can recover in a day and go out and do it again. It's like you're daring life. You're so full of life when you have so much Jing. You don't think you can die. You think you're invincible. You think you're immortal. You'll jump off buildings with parachutes. You'll do things that are nuts just to prove it to yourself, because it feels so good to be alive when you have Jing. But the thing that no one told you when you're that young with all that Jing is that energy is not finite. It's not infinite. That energy, is finite. It feels real good now. You've never been old and lost Jing and aged and understand. Therefore, that's a battery. That's a one-time bank account that your epigenetic body gave you. Okay. It's supposed to fuel you as a long battery source. You know, like a nice MacBook Air will last 15 hours on battery now, right? When you first on charge, when you're done growing at age 15, you're full of all that Jing, it's like a brand new battery. That doesn't mean, it feels good to have a full battery. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to go out and burn it up as fast as I can because I don't know what else to do, because it just feels good. No. Your brain's not done growing. You're still a child. You have all of these great things to do throughout life. Imagine if you can live 100 years with no disease and all of your faculties. You get so wise. You have 100 billion neurons with 40,000 connections per neuron. But they don't start kicking in until after age 31. That's why in the Far East, in the old days, the great work, the spiritual work, does not start till age 31, when the prefrontal frontal lobes are done growing. So the masters that had children would keep the children out of the marketplace. That means out of the matrix. They don't have to go on Facebook or get addicted to the OS of phones and see porno and all the toys and the crap that's out there. And video games. They keep them out of the marketplace for 30 years because you're a child till you're 30. You're young and you're innocent. And let them have a long, pure, innocent childhood. And do things that kids don't do anymore, like climb trees and scrape your knee and go get dirty and go outside and use your imagination and play games and use your hands. You watch Wild World of Animals, and you look at the little lions, and they play fight, the cubs all the time. They're practicing their neurons to learn how to grow up and be better hunters. So kids in the past used to go out and make forts and play and do real things. They're learning how to, work neurons to practice so that they're well-developed on a lot of areas, so when they grow up, they'll be more successful in life. Not just well-developed in one area. But we don't have that today. We have young people that have digital dementia. That's a disease. The amount of screen time that they're stuck to, they're developing Alzheimer's in their early 20s. So it's crazy. And one part of the brain is wired, it's addicted to this, or it's addicted to the entertainment, the moving image, what's going to come next, like a kitten watching a ball of string. It doesn't live for itself anymore. It surrenders the body. This is a form of entertainment, just like a jester in the medieval ages is designed to distract a peasant so they stay dumb, so they don't learn how to fend for themselves, so they keep paying someone else money. And you're a sovereign being. You're a God. You can do more than that. I'm not saying entertainment's bad. It's good to have a little fun. It's good to be positive. It's good to be joyful. But everything you do is making neurons change and creating new connections. Your brain is a shape-shifting quantum computer, and it's constantly creating new connections. So in 15 minutes of watching one YouTube clip that you just clicked on because it popped up and it looked interesting and it was boring, and you got addicted to it and you're lazy, in 15 minutes you're a slightly different person because your neurons changed a little bit in 15 minutes based on what you were thinking, what you were watching. And if you just have a sexual fantasy because you're bored and you jerk off and you spill your seed and now you're weaker, and your brain's changing, you're going to be becoming more of an addict, which means you're probably going to do it again and again, and you're going to start to live for the reward chemical opiate of the climax of the orgasm of sex, which is designed to have only in love to create new life, but you're abusing it, and before you know it, your whole life is just a ball of chemicals. A jerk off here, and a YouTube movie here, and a Subway sandwich here, and someone to validate your ego, whether you want to be a victim or a tyrant. You like to pick on people, or you like to complain about all your problems so people feel sorry for you. That's an addiction too. With enough addictions, every single receptor in this God body that's designed to house a God, every receptor in every cell is clogged with a peptide for that particular addiction. Whether it's a food, it's this, it's that. You don't have room to absorb vitamins or minerals. You don't know how amazing your body can be. So part of the detox is not just building your three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen. That's just the philosophy from the Taoist system. It's old, it's simple, it's beautiful. It's one of the things I stumbled across that I've used. And I keep some of the art in my life because it's really helped me. But you have to detox. You have to detox from the screen. You have to detox from the digital dementia. You have to detox from the video games, from the porno, from the entertainment, from the TV, from the Game of Thrones, from shopping, from the processed food. Start making things yourself. And every time you try to stop something and it's hard, it's not easy, it's not comfortable, that means you have a peptide addiction that's in there. It doesn't want you to do it. You have two choices at that moment. You can just fork one way, that's go back in your past. Keep doing what's comfortable, it feels good, because it's already there, just support the addiction. And now you're just living your past, recirculating it like a child, but you're still an adult, and you have all of these things, and you become very weak-minded. Doesn't mean you're bad. You're still an eternal soul. You're still beautiful. You're still going to go into the light when you croak, and your angels will come if you're a good person. You're going to go into heaven. It's nothing bad with that, but you could have been so much more. And if you have enough consciousness to know that you have potential, maybe you don't believe you're a God, but maybe you believe you have potential to be more than what you're living or what's going on, and there's some call inside you that wants to do it. And if you don't follow that call, and you get lazy, and you give into the addictions your whole life, and then finally your life is over and you're croaking, and as you die, you have a life review. You look at your whole life and everything you did, and your soul sits back there and goes, how do I feel about my behavior? What did I do with this life that was given to me, this great gift? I basically did a lot of things for comfort. I followed a lot of addictions. I played a lot. I wanted to stay like a child. I wanted to fall in love all the time just for the fun of it. It became a game. I pursued material things. I wasn't a bad person. I didn't hurt anybody per se. But my gosh, I wasted an opportunity and a glorious body that was given to me, this eternal soul. I could have done so much more. And I had the calling. I could feel it at times in my childhood or times when I got connected that I meant to be more. I meant to be more. What is the more? How do we find the more? We can't do it if we're being programmed in the matrix constantly full of input coming in that is distracting us to entertain us. That's trying to keep you a child in a childlike state so you don't grow and evolve. The truth is there's no limit to how far any one individual human being can grow and evolve. And the further they go, they start to activate multidimensional consciousness. The auras change, the chakras change, the energy centers change, the brain changes, and some of that 98% non-coded DNA, that multidimensional DNA that doctors don't know what it's there for, starts to turn on. And then phenomenal ascended master gifts start to turn on. Whether you learn to build the cloud from Saint Germain, it happened to me when I was 37, and I just read the book, and I was blown away by it, so I spent 18 minutes trying to follow the meditation for a few months, and then it turned on. And now I can turn it on in seconds. I don't have to meditate to do it. And
Right.
it's a powerful gift to raise vibration. If I got a cold, I can literally meditate on a light cloud so strong it'll burn it out of my body in like 10 minutes through a
All
sweat.
right, we're coming at a half hour, so let's that was so amazing.
I'm sorry, you haven't given me anything specific per se, so I'm just ranting.
No, that's good. So I'm going to title all these videos. It's still running. So this one I'm going to call something about that sovereignty thing, because you just go like it's our first video. So I think that's good.
But
You,
all
like,
all of the things that I try and share with people and teach and practice in my life that make me a little separate from the average person that's grown up in the Matrix. I'm still in the Matrix, part way, but I play it how I want to play it by my rules. I do the things I like to do. I participate with the parts, and then I don't with the other. I've unplugged from the food industry, so I don't have food PTSD anymore because I took about 6 years of 100% pure clean food to detox those memories of all processed foods, the drugs, the chemicals that are in it. And then I've also unplugged from the medical industry, so I don't have to buy health insurance, and I don't have to go to doctors. And there really aren't accidents when you get intentional and clear. And if there are, you know how to fix it and remedy it very quickly yourself. You are your best healer. When you get to that level of consciousness, you are your best doctor. So that's a couple things that set you free from the Matrix. And then when you become a master of your health, like activated multidimensional health, which is the state that I'm trying to get people at with the book I'm writing, with the programs that I do on the master's program, then you get to the point where you don't age, and you don't have pain, and you can heal anything. If you did get some sort of infirmary, so then you're like, that takes a lot of worry away. Well, now I have a lot more freedom. So what am I going to do with my life if I'm not going to really age, and I can live 200 years and I'm never going to get sick, and I can have unlimited energy and a dynamic mind that picks up thought at light speed. And then the more you turn on that non-coded DNA, other gifts start to happen. Cheese coming out of your palms. You start to become telepathic. You can read things. You start to get people's thoughts right before they speak. You get a photographic memory. You start to remember everything you've read. You start to parallel process you both sides of your brain, which started happening to me sometime around 2005 or 6.
Cool.
And then everything you do, a job, a craft, a hobby, giving, sharing to others, your energy becomes so dynamically highly functioning that everything you do turns to gold. You're very talented, you're very gifted. But it's really neat because you're not trying to be talented or gifted. You just are, because your vibration's higher and you're using both sides of your brain at the same time, and your DNA is changing. You're becoming a true being that you were meant to be. Still have a long way to go to open up 100% of the brain to be processing 400 billion bits of information per second, read everybody's mind at once and turn your body into light and ascend, like Buddha or Jesus or Yeshua ben Yosef or the Ramtha, the first so-called ascended master, had done. Every single human being can do that, but not if you're going to want to regurgitate your past and live like a child and stay addicted to all these things. At some point, some people that go extreme with an addiction, and then one day they just finally get sick of it. I've had enough. And they stop, and they go on a detox, and they unplug those neurons. They get to the next level.
There we go. Let's stop there.